Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Kocosports.com proudly presents Wrestle AM. Of course, I'm Boom Boom along with my partner Dave Coco. And of course, unless you've been under a rock for the past 12 hours, you've already heard the news. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, has passed away at the age of 69. Here's what we know. According to reports published by TMZ, Dusty Rhodes fell in his home sometime early Wednesday morning. An ambulance was dispatched to his house just before 6 a.m., was rushed to the hospital, and apparently suffered complications during the night and passed away on Thursday morning. We don't know any more than that. We don't know exactly what the cause of death was. According to Jerry Briscoe, Dusty Rhodes was meeting regularly with his doctor around this time. He was saying he was working on lowering his blood pressure and dropping weight, part of a new health plan. So outside of that, we don't know any more than that as far as the details surrounding his death. We don't know what caused the fall, if that was just an accident or a medical condition. We don't know what type of complications he suffered overnight during the hospital. But one thing we do know is that the world has lost a very incredible, charismatic talent. Dusty Rhodes will be remembered as one of the all-time greats. And Dave, to kind of kick this off here, to kind of give you an idea just how popular Dusty Rhodes was, I was actually working at the television station I work at, and somebody called it out. One of our web guys happened to see it and call it out, and everybody was like, "Whoa, what? You're kidding? Dusty Rhodes died? What the hell?" But everybody knew who he was. Everybody had that Dusty Rhodes impression that they did. And in fact, one of the anchors that I worked with got on his smartphone and pulled up his promo leading up to Starrcade 1985, that showdown he had with Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight title. So I think that speaks volumes for Dusty Rhodes, that even non-wrestling fans knew exactly who he was. They knew his mannerisms. They knew about hard times. They knew about everything, and just the contributions he made to wrestling. I think that speaks volumes for his character. So, Dave, I guess I'll start this off with you. Just what are your initial impressions with the passing of Dusty Rhodes?
Well, nowadays with the internet, it just, I don't know where this prank has come from, but every time someone passes away, my first response is this even factual? And that's just a sad time that we're in, that, people have fake celebrity deaths and all that. So I always got that. And then, after the realization that it really happened, I was kind of, in shock, just because, I don't know why. It just sounds crazy, but, it seems like in my head, oh, you work backstage at WWE, you're set, there's no danger, no health risk in it, but you just never know. But I was just absolutely shocked by it, and I think he's one of the all-time greats, and not only that, but especially entertainment-wise. I got to interview him plenty of times before, and he was always so kind to me. That's one thing I remember and about Dusty Rhodes, is that he was always kind, and he didn't have to be kind. I always remember people that I meet, especially when you work in media. There's people that, all right, there's low-end guys that have to be kind to you no matter what, and it's just an ass-kissing world, and they have to be kind no matter what just because they're on thin ice. But then there's people that are such huge stars that don't have to be kind and probably could pass by any radio guy, any internet guy, and just be like, fuck off, And Dusty never did that to me. He was always kind, always answered my questions. And I got to work in wrestling with so many people that were a lot closer to him than I was. And I kind of regret that, just because he was always kind to me. But, I always said the fact, once you're that big of a celebrity in a certain niche or a genre, that people bug you all the fucking time. So I just didn't want to bug him. But I kind of wish I got closer to him. I got to work with his son. I booked his son as champion. And the thing that I remember about Dusty is he was just so kind. You just, that's it. a lot of times people just find people asking you questions or once you're a celebrity to be an annoyance, and he didn't seem like that. Like, I was worried. I actually was, because, you know, when you interview a lot of athletes and interview a lot of pro wrestlers, you just think they're going to be fucking dicks. And I would say if you have celebrity status as Dusty Rhodes level, you're going to be a dick. It's just the percentages are that you're going to be a dick. And a lot of it has to do because media guys think, wow, this is a good question. But that celebrity has probably heard that question 8 trillion times. And it gets annoying. And you see people that can't handle the media correctly. And Dusty wasn't that way. We sat down, we had a conversation. And even though, like, a lot of stuff was going on, he paid attention to what my silly questions were. And I really appreciate it. And just some of the things that he did. He made War Games one of the greatest promos of all time, maybe the greatest promo of all time, Hard Times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny, too, because, like, that promo became bigger than pro wrestling, and it went out. In the Marine Corps, we used to always – and when did he cut that promo? Probably in the 80s, the 70s, Hard Times?
It was 85. It was leading up to
85.
It was leading up to Starrcade. He was challenging Ric Flair for the I believe it was that time, as the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
And it's one of the greatest promos of all time. But 10 plus years later, I was in the Marine Corps after that promo, and we referenced that promo probably every day. They'd be like, oh, you're not going to eat tonight. I'd be like, oh, join the Marine Corps. Not going to eat tonight. Hard times, hard times. A leave has been canceled. Oh, leave has been canceled. Hard times, hard times. And and it's crazy because, you know, how many promos do you know that people outside of pro wrestling reference 10 plus years later? And it was just a great promo. Came up with War Games. And, you know, also worked in NXT. I'm kind of happy now that the last pay-per-view, the last WWE pay-per-view, I believe it was the last pay-per-view. I don't know. There's so many. They did a Dusty finish. And I just thought that was pretty awesome, you know?
It was the last pay-per-view, the Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. That's a classic Dusty. Okay, for those of you kind of wondering what is exactly a Dusty finish, Dusty Rhodes actually came up with it. That's why it's called a Dusty finish. It's where a heel's a champion, and there's a face challenger, and then the face seemingly gets the win, but due to some kind of mess up with the referee's not looking or is knocked unconscious, and then their decision gets reversed, and then the win or the championship gets ripped right out of the clutches of the good guy. That was most referenced, you know, as we mentioned, at Elimination Chamber during the Dean Ambrose Seth Rollins match. Ambrose was coming down off the top rope. Seth Rollins pushed the referee in front of him, and the referee took the bump and got knocked out. Ambrose got the pin on Seth Rollins. Another referee came in, counted 3. Well, then the original referee woke up and said, I'm disqualifying Seth Rollins. So that took the championship away from Dean Ambrose. I mean, that's a classic Dusty finish.
And if you grew up an NWA fan like I did, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know, you might have grew up a WWF fan, but when you grew up an NWA fan, dude, you fell for this every time. And as a kid, you were just mad at the referee. You're like, it doesn't even make sense. And it's one of those things that, you know, he used it a lot, but still, you fall for it, you know. Me and Wrestling Rankton, we were having such a great time laughing because he's like, oh, it's a Dusty finish. And I fell for it. You know, even though I know what a Dusty finish is, I absolutely fell for it, and it brought joy. I'm also happy that he got to team up, or manage at least, his sons versus the Shield. I kind of wish they had the Dustin versus Cody match with him involved somehow at WrestleMania. That would have been really special. I'm glad he got in the Hall of Fame while he was still alive. And
the closest they got was, I believe, Fastlane. It was Cody versus Goldust versus Stardust. And then the next, and actually this was the last appearance of Dusty Rhodes on WWE television, was back in February when he was, you know, trying to get the brothers back together. And then Cody goes, no, Cody's dead. I'm Stardust. You know, that was his last appearance.
Yeah. So, but so many great memories. I mean, the Road Warriors, the feud with the Road Warriors. The thing I honestly believe what got me into being an NWA guy over a WWF guy, and that's one thing that bugs me. Everyone grew up to be a WWF fan. It's just no, it's not true. But one thing that got me into it was the Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes feud. I just think, as a kid, that's what professional wrestling was. And I was a Ric Flair guy, and Booms might know this, but I'm very difficult to get along with. I'm a very troubled person. But when I was a little boy, I fucking hated my family, adults, and that's it. But when Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair wrestled, we had something in common. And a lot of the adults, they grew up poor because, I grew up moving on. Hard times. But like they related to Dusty Rhodes. And as a kid, I wanted to be Ric Flair. I remember when I made a lot of money and I had to dress up in suits, I only wore Armani because of Ric Flair. And that's it. I knew nothing. I didn't know who Hugo Boss was. I didn't know who DKNY was, but I fucking knew who Armani was because of Ric Flair. That's product placement. And I just remember, like, when I told Dusty this, and he was so cool about it, I was like, hey, I had trouble past with my, adults. When you can't even call them parents, you've had a trouble past. But, I have trouble past with, like, my carekeepers. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. We'll just say parents for the sake of, I can't think of a worse word for them.
Guardians.
Yeah, but Guardians. Thank you. Guardians. But, like, that's it. We just had something in common, and it was just Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair's feuds. And when I told him that, he was like, oh, man, that's awesome. That's what, and I'm paraphrasing here. I'm pretty sure he didn't sound like white trash New Jersey. But he's like, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That's what, I always wanted out of pro wrestling, people just to forget about the problems and have something to talk about. And even now, like, people that took care of me in New Jersey, we could just talk and be like, oh, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and boom, we have something to talk about. Otherwise, we just sit there angry. That's it. Just like, oh, I'm angry. We're very loud, angry people from New Jersey. But one thing that brings us joy is just the feud between Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. And just the promos is so exciting. It can talk people into the building. Just absolutely talk people right into that building. And the thing is, I was a Ric Flair guy. When I heard Hard Times promo, I was like, oh, shit. That Dusty Rhodes guy is pretty goddamn awesome. And I wanted to root for him. So, yeah. So, those are some of my favorite memories. What are some of your favorite memories of Dusty Rhodes?
I'm glad you asked that. The one that really touched me, and I'm going back to, when Dusty Rhodes was winning the NWA World, back in '85, I think when he won it from Flair, I at that time I might have been about 4 years old when that happened. So I really didn't know the NWA Dusty Rhodes. I really didn't know the Georgia Championship Wrestling Dusty Rhodes. I really didn't know the maybe at that time the Polka Dot, Dusty Rhodes. What I knew is, and see, I'm from the Deep South, so I got WCW, and I used to watch that every week. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I still like WWF at the time, but it was harder to watch. But watching WCW out of Georgia was a hell of a lot easier for me than to get WWF out of Connecticut. It was 1994. It was Dusty Rhodes was kind of he was stepping back from the wrestling scene. I think he pretty much retired at that point. And they did this angle where Arn Anderson turned on Dustin Rhodes and joined up with Colonel Robert Parker and his whole group. It was, I believe it was Colonel Robert Parker, Arn Anderson, I think it was Bunkhouse Buck, and hang on, let me look here. I know it had Ming. Okay, it was, Arn Anderson, Bunkhouse Buck, Terry Funk, and Ming. They had this faction, and then, he got turned on, and then Dusty Rhodes goes in the ring with his son and is basically talking about how, I wasn't a very, I'm paraphrasing to you. He was admitting to basically being an absentee parent. He's like, I should have been there for you more, and I should have been more of a father figure to you. And you know what? If you're having trouble finding a partner, I'll be your partner, and I don't need a handshake. All I need is a hug and a kiss. And then his son just hugs him right there in the ring, and we've got the match set. It's a War Game style match, and that just blew me away. It was just so emotional. I think I might have been maybe 12 years old at the time, and it was just, wow, very powerful. And, of course, they went in and they won that War Games matchup. They actually, Dusty and Dustin teamed up with the Nasty Boys on that one, but that was, to me, was the Dusty Rhodes that I remember. That's the one that really touched me, because I wasn't really there to watch all this stuff out of Florida, but I was there to watch that in the 90s in WCW. And that's when I realized, oh, I like Dusty Rhodes. That whole angle right there with his son.
Yeah, and the thing is, what I got to work with Dustin a lot more than I got to work with Dusty, even though I got to meet Dusty, and some of my closest friends in the business were really close to Dusty, is the polka dot thing. Dude, that was a horrible gimmick where they just wanted to bust Dusty's balls, but he took the ball and ran with it.
Sorry to interrupt, but I actually heard that the polka dot gimmick was his idea.
See, I heard different stories. I wish we could ask him, but I heard that, no, it was supposed to be a rib, and he just took the ball and ran with it. And, yeah, but either way, it was a horrible gimmick. Like, if you put that on paper, no one can pull that off. And the same thing, I've said the same thing about Undertaker. You put the Undertaker character on anyone else, that fails miserably. But the polka dot thing, either way, if it was his idea or not his idea, he just took the ball and ran with it and just made it crazy. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I was an NWA guy. And I hated WWE. When I saw him with the polka dots, I was like, as a fan, I was like, this is bullshit. And he just took it and ran with it. And that's something that Cody has picked up. That's something that Dustin has picked up. And if they weren't pro wrestlers, they could easily be actors. Cody just, there's not a gimmick he can't get over. You've seen that on WWE television. Dustin, I never met someone that had so much professionalism, passion for a character. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times you go to a wrestler and be like, well, this is what I think, and you hand them, like, what you think should happen. And they just look at you like, oh, whatever, dude. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. But no, Dustin, like, he's an actor, man. He's just... it's his calling, and like, it's just amazing, his sons and him, how great of an actor he is. Because let's be completely honest, if that polka dots gimmick is on anybody, it bombs. I mean, could you see anyone carrying the polka dot gimmick at all?
I really can't.
And he made it work. He just busted his ass and made it work. So, but yeah, and the thing is, we keep stressing War Games. And I don't know if War Games holds up to what it was, but for older fans such as me and Boom Boom, when we were kids, War Games was the craziest effing thing ever. Like, we were like, War Games? Oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I just remember, like, as a kid, marking the hell out. And that was something that Dusty Rhodes also brought.
Yeah, when I had the WWE Network for a while, that's one of the things I did. I just typed in War Games, and that's all I did one weekend. I just watched nothing but War Games matches. And for those of you who don't know what an old school War Games match is, it's typically 5-on-5. They take 2 rings and put them together, and they put a cage over the top of it, a completely domed-in cage. And you start out with 2 guys who start wrestling for 5. And it's really a 5-minute. There's no referee in there. It's just 2 guys, one from each team starts out, and they start brawling for 5 minutes. Then there's a coin toss, and then whoever wins that gets to send another guy in. And then they go in for 2 minutes, and then the other team sends in another guy. And then it keeps going in 2-minute intervals till everybody's in the ring. Once everybody's in the ring, a referee comes in. Then it becomes, I think, submit or surrender, where you can win by pinfall or submission, but only after all 10 men are in the ring. And those things were crazy. I mean, that was almost a guaranteed somebody's going to get hurt. You knew that, nobody was walking out of that thing unscathed. I mean, people would walk out bloody as hell after that match. And it was one of the craziest concepts. damn it was entertaining. And I know there's been talk about trying to bring it back. I don't think it, at least not in this wrestling era, I don't think it can make a comeback.
And I just want to talk about how popular it was. So popular in Florida. I never got to watch him live in person in his prime of Florida, but towards the end of his career, he did a lot of Florida independents, and the guy could draw, and people cared. He had a connection to the people that I don't think many people have, and it was magical to see him towards the end of his career live in person. And one time, we were at a really big event, and this is a funny Dusty story. It's really short. I apologize. I'm just trying to think of memories of him. But he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Dave Coco, what do you think about this storyline?" Because they were booking a main event for a really big card, a really expensive big card. And I have a problem of I cannot lie. Hence, I'm bad at lying. Like, granted, I can make up a story and tell you it's a lie, and then I feel comfortable. But, like, if someone says, "Oh, do I look fat?" Oh, dude, my wife hates that. I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, you're getting fat." It's hard to lie for me. Like, it takes effort. Like, some people, it's just smooth to lie. But for me, it takes effort to lie. And Dusty comes up to me, and he's like, "This is what we're thinking about doing." And without even thinking about it, it would have been really the right thing to do. But like, "Yeah, Dusty, I guess, yeah, that's great." No, I go, "That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life." And Dusty turns to the creative team and goes, "See, I told you." And I was like, that could have ended badly. That could have ended really badly. Dusty Rhodes could have fucking just beat my fucking ass. But yeah, I fucking suck at doing the censor thing. But yeah, I just remember because it was one of those things, I blurted it out, and then there was this awkward moment of holy shit, is one of my boyhood idols about to punch me right in the fucking face? And he was just like, "Yeah, I told you it was bad," and he just turned around and left. And I was like, I lucked out on that one. So I know a lot of people in Florida are really sad, and he helped so many people, and
Absolutely.
just a great guy.
They've actually on Cage Side Seats, they've got an article up there, 10 things you may not know about Dusty Rhodes, and I'll just try to briefly just go through some of the stuff. And
all right, well, what website is that? Just so that we don't feel guilty for reading your stuff.
It's cagesideseats.com.
All right, go ahead. 10 things. Let's hear it.
Dusty was an executive producer for Jim Crockett Promotions and was actually credited as such, but he was credited under his real name, Virgil Runnels.
I feel like it's like now I'm on a sad game show. Yeah, I knew that. Go on.
It was Dusty that came up with most of WCW's pay-per-view names and gimmicks. Obviously, you're citing War Games, Battle Bowl, and the Lethal Lottery.
Yeah, War Game is awesome. I'm almost positive. I feel kind of silly now that it's not on that. I'm thinking he came up with the Great American Bash too. And to me, I thought that is one of the greatest names for a pay-per-view ever. And it's funny because when WWE made the Great American Bashes, they were horrible. But I just still paid just because, no, I remember the Great American Bash as being great. And I wish WWE brought some of those older pay-per-views back. I know, according to their market research, they like to change the name so it feels young and fresh. But as an older fan, I like to have the events. Because I don't know about you, but if it's called Starrcade, War Games, the Great American Bash, I feel more obligated to buy it if it's a bad card because of the nostalgia and the memories. Mm-hmm. Where, if it's Fastlane and it's a shitty card, I'm not going to buy it. No, I have no connections to this pay-per-view. So I know they have market research that probably proves me wrong, but I wish that WWE kept the old school names. Because, let's put it this way, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, I think even if the cards are shitty, most older fans still buy the pay-per-views just for the memories. So I wish they brought back the Great American Bash, War Games, and all that. It would be awesome. All right, go ahead, sir.
Dusty Rhodes, like his son Dustin, was fired from WCW for bleeding. Of course, they're referencing there was an incident in '88 at where Turner Broadcasting, they had a no-blood policy for WCW.
Yeah.
And at Starrcade in '88, uh, Dusty Rhodes came up with an angle where he got busted open by Spike by Road Warrior Animal, and he got reprimanded for that, and he got fired. And I think it was after that. That's when he made the jump to WWF. And of course, his son got fired for blaming in the King of the Road match against the Blacktop Bully.
Yeah, WCW. It breaks my heart because when WWE rewrites the history, WCW seems like a joke. But WCW was just ran by some really dumb motherfuckers, some really dumb people, and they just, I don't know. I always get mad because when history is written, WCW is kind of like with TNA jokes, and that's not the case. It was really a good product. It's just people drove it right into the ground. A lot, too. There was always like, oh, new owner, he ruined WCW, new guy has to rebuild it. It always seemed that way. Go ahead.
Dusty's full-time wrestling career ended in the WWF. Of course, after that Starrcade incident, he jumped over to the WWF. He had some feuds with Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase. I don't believe he actually won any championships in the WWF at the time. And then after that...
Yeah, but for newer fans, that's kind of common.
Mm-hmm.
Like nowadays, everyone has a title. There's so many titles. But back then, when he was there, yeah, just people had championships for a long time. And the championships were so valuable that you could have a side feud with no title and it still means something. Nowadays, the titles mean absolutely nothing. So when you're feuding and it's not for a title, you're like, oh, this must be the undercard. But back then, it wasn't the case.
Right. And it was, and he actually introduced his son Dustin to the. I think it was in the Royal Rumble in '91, but it was shortly after that in '91. Both, Rhodes and his son, they left WWF and they went to WCW. And actually, Dusty retired from full-time competition after he left the WWF in 1991.
Yeah, and I don't know. This might get me some healing. I always liked Dustin Rhodes better than Goldust. I always did, but that's just me being a WCW fanboy. All right, go ahead. What else?
We're getting to number 5 here. It was Dusty's PWF Heavyweight Championship belt that was used in an emergency for the 1991 Great American Bash. That's the one where Ric Flair left WCW with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship belt. And so they needed to have something, until they could get the belt back. So they used his championship to kind of fill that void on TV.
Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, that was a big thing back when I was a kid. That's when
that happened.
That's when like you were kind of like, oh, there's more to pro wrestling than meets the eye. That's when you started becoming like, oh, there could be insiders. There could, you know what I mean? It really opened your eyes at that young age. Go ahead.
All right. Dusty Rhodes was a member of the NWA. Of course, the reference in the time that he managed Hall and Nash.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's an accomplishment. I
mean, things you may not know. I don't think it was very bad.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people, but pretty much if you were in WCW, you were in NWO. Sometimes you probably didn't even know. They just like threw a T-shirt at you. So, go ahead.
All right, Dusty Rhodes was in ECW. Of course,
yeah, I remember that.
Had the feud with Steve Corino. And believe it or not, somebody even brought this up as a little factoid, that the very first time he ever appeared in a video game was ECW's Hardcore Revolution back in the year 2000.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that. I knew about the Steve Corino feud, but I didn't know. And the thing is, Dusty Rhodes and Steve Corino had some great feuds just on the indies in Florida, and it was really exciting to watch. I don't know if this is on the list, but I hope WWE, because I imagine Dusty Rhodes works with them. I hope WWE has the Turnbuckle. He ran his own federation with Turnbuckle. I forget what it was called.
Yep.
We just called it Turnbuckle.
Yeah, actually, yes, that's the next one. He ran his own, own promotion for 3 years. It was Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. It was based out of Marietta, Georgia. He ran shows in Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia, Florida. It had people like the Disco Inferno, Glacier, Lodi, Scotty Riggs, people like that. Even Public Enemy to Jerry Super Crazy, Steve Carino's, C.W. Anderson, some of the talent that he ran in that promotion.
Yeah, and I swear I don't know the list. That looks like it's like I have the list in front of me. But yeah, with Turnbuckle, I hope WWE owns the rights to that. And this is where the network can come in. How great would it be just to see like maybe a 10 and 24-hour block of just Turnbuckle Wrestling with commercials of WWE guys just talking about what Dusty Rhodes meant to us. I hope WWE Network does something like that, and I hope they have the Turnbuckle footage because some of those crowds were really, really big, and the feud with him and Steve Carino was pretty amazing, and it was cool. It was really cool. Go ahead.
Let's see. Dusty had 4 WWE Hall of Fame inductions. He inducted his late mentor Eddie Graham. He would later induct the Funk Brothers. And then in 2011, he would induct the Road Warriors. And then in 2012, he inducted the 4 Horsemen. Of course, he got his Hall of Fame induction, I believe, in 2007.
So, and that's awesome. I'm happy for him. And that's the thing when it comes to WWE Hall of Fame. You know, never in a million years would I guess Dusty Rhodes was going to die anytime soon. It just didn't even pop up on the radar. I mean, some of you were like, oh, I see how he lives his life. This isn't a shocker. But Dusty Rhodes, you just never know. And that's why I think the WWE Hall of Fame, I know a lot of people are angry, but I just think you should get more people in there. And it's such a great moment to remember their careers. I know some people treat it like, you know, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, and they should only be so good or so bad and all that. But I don't know. I think, you know, I don't agree with Vince Russo on a lot of stuff, and I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I think the Hall of Fame, there should be a lot more members to it. And it's weird because, you know, it is something special. It's special to the fans. It's obviously special to the guys who show up. The night is special. They keep talking about a wing in Orlando, which I hope they finally clear. But yeah, to me, they should definitely get more people in because it's a special night and you can have fond memories of the career. So, go ahead.
And the last factoid here is he is one of 6 men to be inducted into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame, the WCW Hall of Fame, and the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's joined, of course, the company he shares is Vern Gagne, Harley Race, Antonio Inoki, Gordon Soley, and Terry Funk.
That's a nice list to be on. We also have him in our Hall of Fame too, but I don't think that holds as much weight as the others. But yeah, that's he definitely deserves it. He's one of the best of all time, definitely. So, and just the memories are great. So hopefully WWE does some classy stuff on the network this week. And it would be great to see some Turnbuckle or some classic Dusty Rhodes.
Dave, real quick, I'm actually I just got this in here. So breaking news at Kocosports.com. Kevin Owens, he paid.
Boom, boom. I think you froze, brother.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, but anyway, the breaking news is that Kevin Owens paid tribute to Dusty Rhodes at an NXT house show in Pittsburgh. It's popped up on Twitter just now. His KO shirt, he put black polka dots in the KO.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, so hopefully people remember. And I know Owens, you know, and Dusty, he told the story about how Owens, you know, got interviewed by Dusty, and I'm sure Dusty had a big thing. I know he wrote something really nice on social media or blogs about Dusty. So it's just sad. And not that, but, you know, how many people do you just imagine, how many future superstars did Dusty Rhodes help out in NXT, such as Owens? So we'll go to some live comments and wrap this up. If you want, in the comments, leave some of your favorite Dusty memories. Boom, boom, boom. Brandon on Facebook says, sad to hear Dusty Rhodes and Christopher Lee. Yeah, a lot of celebrities pass away at the same time. I forget, what is it, 3 is a trend or something? I don't know.
Well, Dave, there's a superstition. I know, I don't think it's a Southern thing, but it's kind of a superstitious thing that death always comes in 3s.
Gotcha. Well, it's a sad day no matter what. Let's just go. I'm just going to go right up the list here of live comments on YouTube. Bakaka Rock says, "Holy shit, I just saw the title and became absolutely shocked." Yeah, I'm sorry to give such bad news. First Christopher Lee and now Dusty Rhodes today. Hard times. I Am Mikey says, "The dream lives on. Dusty Rhodes is 1 in a million. Brilliant mind for pro wrestling gone and never forgotten." Enzo mentioned how Dusty Rhodes really stood up for all the young talent to be themselves and to bring out the personalities within the gimmick. Just one of many special ways that Dusty Rhodes was helped the future of the biz. And I hope that, because Dusty could really talk people into the building, and he really ad-libbed in everything that he did almost. I hope that people learn from that, and hopefully we get some great promos that you just can really feel. I wish Cody was able to work with his dad and his brother in a serious program. I kind of hate the fact that the Stardust gimmick was used in a feud that could have been legendary if taken seriously. But of course, the monopoly waits till it's too late. Yeah, and we talked about this. During WrestleMania season, me and Booms were really upset that Cody and Dustin, didn't get a one-on-one match at Mania with Dusty either managing or refereeing or something. But I just remember being really upset about that. So there you go. Travis Moore says, "My favorite Dusty Rhodes moment, the promo with WWE. He seems like he was a good guy." Yeah, and not only that, but also you can see Dusty Rhodes. They had like Legends of the Round Table or something like that at WWE.com. I don't know if it's on the network, but it was like Dusty Rhodes was always one of the guests, and they just talked about topics, and it was always cool to hear him speak. Hopefully you have access to that on the network. LB Clash of Kings says WWE should have did a storyline with the Rhodes family to Cody Rhodes versus Goldust at Mania and Goldust retirement match with Dusty Rhodes as ref. Sadly, we'll probably are never going to get that now. Rest in peace, Dusty. I Am Mikey, LOL, the truth shall set you free, Coco. Dope story, no problem. Amazing you got to meet and work and help creative-wise with the American Dream. I didn't help creative-wise that much. He just asked for my opinion, and I was an asshole, and he agreed. But yeah, no, I got to interview him and stuff like that. But a lot of people that I worked with him really close. So I feel bad for a lot of my friends because they're probably going to, if you know someone personally, it hits you so much harder. Forrest Aiken says, "I was shocked when I heard the news from my brother this afternoon on my way home. Sad to hear of the passing. Rest in peace, Dusty Rhodes. Thank you for all you've given to the world." Yeah, thank you for the memories. I Am Mikey. Mike Ashman says, "Dusty Rhodes legit built the foundation for damn near every major promotion and indie promotion. NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW, WWF, WCW, and ECW, TNA, ROH, FIP, IWA Mid-South, Japan, WB, NXT. Thanks, Boom Boom and Coco, for going over some rich history that this era of pro wrestling fans might not even know about. My dad and grandparents has old tapes of Dusty and Ric Flair."
Ooh,
so, yeah, Dusty and Ric Flair is just it's one of the best things going, or one of the best things ever in pro wrestling. LB Clash of Kings. I've wined and dined with kings and queens. Forgot the rest. I think it's something like pork and beans. Do you know that the really famous line he does?
Yeah, I've wined and dined with kings and queens, and I've slept in alleys and dined on pork and beans.
So yeah, it's just. I don't know. I know what it is. I think because when you're a little kid, it's easy to go to Ric Flair's side. He's got the suits. He's cocky. He's got the women. So as a little white trash kid, you look up to him. But now that I'm a white trash adult, I'm like, no, Dusty is so much more you can relate to Dusty than Ric Flair.
Absolutely.
It's just like.
And Dave, here's the thing. This is not a shot at anybody or anything, but I honestly don't think Dusty Rhodes, if like there was some kind of like time warp or something, like if he was just coming out now, I don't think WWE would even give him a chance. I think he came at the right time, was the right fool to Ric Flair. I mean, he was the polar opposite of Ric Flair. A lot of people could relate to him, and I think that's why he got over. I think if that character tried to start today in 2015, he would never get a chance.
He might, now that NXT is there, Triple H. He would obviously be able to draw crowds on the indies. He'd probably get international tours. He'd be a superstar everywhere. The promos. It's just, I don't know. Maybe this time he'd have a better chance, but yeah, a couple years ago when John Cena, Batista, Orton were on top and Vince McMahon was masturbating to muscles, I don't think he would have made it, and that's just fucking wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. But now, hopefully, with NXT, they're fixing that because, I don't know, as a pro wrestling fan, not once did I give a fuck what they looked like. I cared if they entertained me. I cared if they could go in the ring, and that's what Dusty had. So hopefully it's changing for the better. And maybe Dusty Rhodes is the one that helped change it for the better down in NXT. All right, you want to wrap this bad boy up?
Yes. Yeah, because we can go and wrap it up here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to us. And, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the Rhodes family. And thank you very much, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, what more can we say? And we've got a lot of other good podcasts coming up here on Kocosports.com. I've gotten in the NXT review. Coco's gotten the Lucha Underground review. Of course, we're doing this one here. We're going to hope to get in a Ring of Honor and TNA review within the coming days. We've also going to have to do a pay-per-view profits for Money in the Bank, then a Money in the Bank paper review. And then we have to start the week all over again and do the Monday Night Raw review. Actually, Dave will do that, not me, because I work. And, God, we've got a ton of stuff coming up. So be sure to like, subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Of course, you can always find us at Kocosports.com. That's KOCOsports.com. It's your home for all combat sports. I'm not going to go through the whole spiel, considering the subject matter of the show, but check us out at Kocosports.com. Well, Dave,
just two more comments. Matthew Bryan says this is horrible news. Yes, it is. And LB Clash of Kings says Grado kind of reminds me of a young British version of Dusty Rhodes in TNA. Possibility, but Grado is more comedy, where Dusty Rhodes, he was more entertainment. So I could see a little bit of similarities, but I love Grado. I love the character, but I don't think he's a Dusty Rhodes. I think he's a bit different. He's nowhere near. Here's the thing: if you put Grado against Kurt Angle, you'd be like, oh no, that's not selling tickets. That's not going to do something amazing. But if you put Dusty in his prime versus Kurt Angle, you can main event any company, any place in the world. So I love Grado, but I think he's more comedy, where Dusty Rhodes was just pure entertainment. All right. Thank you for the comments. We'll be back, and yeah, just sad news. Sad news. All right. With that, I am over.